Hi, my name is Denny Darke, and my friend Jacob has asked me to tell you a little bit about my journey becoming an author and publishing my first book. So Jacob asked how I became an author, and I led a very colourful life. I've worked for most of it. I've been a naval aviator. I've been a cop for my sins. I've been a social worker and protecting children. And I took early retirement. I've been nagged most of my life by my adult children to put some of the words down on paper. I'm told I'm funny. I see the humour in the darkest of situations, and I haven't found that many books that have actually made me laugh in my life, only one or two, and I'll mention them later. So I thought, well, why don't I just write a book that makes me laugh? And so that's what I started to do, which sounds a bit narcissistic, and it's not. Well, it might be, but that's what I've done, and that's why I started to write. Secondly, the second question that Jacob asked me is, what's my earliest childhood memory? And this was probably, I started school late, and I was always catching up. In the reading department, they start school very early in the UK, and we'd been travelling back from Australia. We immigrated. So I was a late starter, and this lovely young lady started in our school. Her name was Siobhan, and she was Irish, and I just fell in love with her. I was 8, going on 9, and I didn't know how to connect with her, didn't have a clue, and I think she thought I was, in her words, a feckin' idiot. And so I wrote her a love letter, and when she got the love letter, it just cracked her up laughing, and she said, and I won't do the accents, but she said, you know what, I'm going to give you a good kiss in the cloakrooms after school. So I met her after school, and she gave me a really nice kiss. It's my first ever kiss, but that was the byproduct of writing a funny love letter to her, Siobhan. Okay, the third question that Jacob asked me is, were there any books that inspired me on my writing journey? And this was quite an easy question for me. I had an awful childhood. Sorry, I even laugh at that. I had an awful childhood. It was just so bad. I had the worst teenage years, like how I didn't do myself in, I don't know. But one book really helped me to survive this. And it was a book called Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. And the book just is so funny. Like every line, every chapter is just hilarious. And I thought, if I could write anything just 1% as funny as that, I'll be a happy man. And Joseph Heller's book inspired me no end. And so I'll ask myself the fourth question. Okay. I have to read my own handwriting here. How much of my fiction books is based on real life experience? And I'd say most of my writing is based on real life experiences. For example, my new book, The Man with the Pink Sombrero, really what inspired me to write that was we went on holiday to Mexico, a country that I love visiting. It's just lovely in every which way. And we were in a beautiful condo, lovely ocean view, in a very traditional Mexican town that isn't that touristy. And a group of Mexican tourists also shared the condo with us. There seemed to be about 250,000 people visited, and they bought their sound system, which was like this 90-foot high subwoofer system, and just played music night and day, or they went on the karaoke, and it was almost traumatic for me to listen to. and at one point, because it was just being played, the music playing day in, day out, night, all through the night, and they'd be asleep, and I couldn't get to sleep because of the boom, boom, boom. I wanted to pour concrete in my ears just to stop the pain. But they were a lot of fun. They were having a lot of fun. This is what Mexican people do when they celebrate, they party. And but the inspiration from that was really what came from it was the book. And you know, there were stories of cartel. There were stories of all kinds of shenanigans that were going on in the place I was staying. There was a river that was full of crocodiles, and sometimes the crocodiles would go onto the beach and start snapping at people, was there, sunbathing, you know, like can't make this stuff up, but it's true. But I took a lot of the stories and some of the stuff from real life and some of the characters that I've met, and I incorporated them into this pretty zany book, which is a bit of a thriller. Okay, so that was a lot of inspiration comes from real life. Next question that Jacob asked me, are there any genres of books that I'd like to write about, but I don't feel that I do them justice. I really don't feel I would do like love scenes, Valentine specials, you know, the kissy kissy, boy meets girl, boy meets boy, girl meets girl, whatever. No, I would just end up putting comedy into it. I can't help myself. And if I did a psychological thriller, I think I could do it, but I'd end up being silly in it as well. So those kind of genres I'd struggle, and probably the hardest thing to write about is what I did last year was a memoir. It was very tough, but I won't go into that. But yeah, so that was another question from Jacob. How long? The next question is, how long did it take me to write my latest book? February 2020. 29. Sorry, February 2023, and then finished it and published it a couple of weeks ago. And in that time, I wrote 2 books. So it's probably about 6 months in all, and most of that was editing and sending it off to the editor, and more editing and sending it off. So it's quite a journey. Kudos to people who write books. I never had a clue how challenging writing a book is, and but I've done it now. Whether it be good or bad in other people's eyes, it was a journey, and it took me about 6 months in all from start to finish. Okay, the next question, which is the easiest question to answer, Jacob, is tell us about your new book. Well, as you can see, I've got a little poster up there, and as I've mentioned already, you see the resemblance. Okay, this is first thing in the morning after a few tequilas. Okay, this is what my wife thinks I look like. And this is a book called The Man with the Pink Sombrero, and it's a very zany tale. And I'll just put the cover up here, and it really is about the protagonist is called Jimmy, and he's written a book himself, and it's a really crazy book about how to basically become a millionaire in 50 minutes. And he has this really insane roulette system that he says if you follow his rules and follow his principles, even if you're a goat farmer in Kandahar in Afghanistan or a male nurse in Bar Harbor, you can become a millionaire. And his book claimed to be able to end world poverty. It's that silly, okay? Anyway, some of the people tried his system, and they ended up bankrupt, and they ended up suing him, and he ended up settling out of court. And there was a massive hullabaloo, and as a result, his wife and his little foul-mouthed child, Max, went off to Mexico to get away from it all and spend 3 months there just to recharge the batteries. Well, as you can imagine, things don't go as planned, and he loses his money, Um, and he ends up meeting this character who he's also sharing his condo with. Funny that happened to me, who was a cartel boss. And basically, without giving you any spoilers, he just gets more and more in the shit. And he ends up running for his life with this crazed hitman, Sicario, called Raul Montana, after him. And I won't give any spoilers, but it's a fun roller coaster of a ride. And I would recommend it if you want to laugh. Like, if you're really serious and you're like the most morose, moribund human being on this planet who just sees the negative in everything, I wouldn't buy it. And you know what? It's fiction. It's not true. It's fiction. But I think it's a lot of fun, and a lot of people that have read it think it's a lot of fun. So, I'd encourage you to have a read and let Jacob know what you think of it. And finally, Jacob's last question is, I think it was something like, have you got anything else in the pipeline? And yep, I'm going to release my memoir in May, probably. It's under my real name of Gary. And did you know that apparently the name Gary is going to be extinct by the year 2050? Shocking. So I've made a little deal with my daughters that they're going to call all their children Gary. They'll say Gary with one R, Gary with two R's, Gary with three R's. Gawy, G-A-W-Y. So that we're just going to be called Gary. So we're going to make sure that Gary isn't extinct by 2050, okay? All you Garys out there, I'm rooting for us. Anyway, I'm releasing my memoir, which is a pretty shocking memoir for 17 years of my life. It's what you'd call a funny misery memoir. And I think it's going to be called Shattered Dreams, Laughing Through the Darkness. And that's going to be released in May. And I'm currently writing my second psychological zany thriller, which is actually not based in Mexico, it's based in Nova Scotia in Canada. I lived there for 7 years, had lots of funny experiences, it's a great place to live. But that's my most recent project that I'm giggling about at the moment as I'm writing a few chapters. Anyway, I thank you for the opportunity of me sharing a little bit about me. And I thank you, Jacob, for letting me just ramble on like a rambler. I live in the west coast of Canada, and although I sound a little bit like Prince Harry, I am British, but I'm also a Canadian citizen as well, and just love traveling. So thank you once again for this opportunity, and I'll catch you soon. And remember, the man with the pink sombrero.